Okay, cool. The video is recording. Um, so again, back to one of the older ones, Complex Reflections, and today, basically, I want to talk about probably bring in a few other points to it, but it's around diet. And the topic is, if the diet works so well, then why is the weight back on? So this is something I hear a lot of the time from people who are giving advice completely unelicited or completely out of their own experience from a former diet or something. A lot of things I've overheard, and then a lot of things that clients, potential clients, be it in the gym or online, have told me about their diet or about what worked for them before. So, something I often ask people, if you're working online with me, it might be one of the first few questions I ask is, if you've tried anything, what is it and what has worked? Do you feel what has worked? And then another conversation I often strike up with clients in person is the exact same thing. Do you know, like, where's your diet at? What kind of habits do you have? Is there big gaps? And just through talk, then we usually get into that question again. What has worked for you before, if anything? And you're always met with this sort of, I know what to do. I know what to do. This is what works. And they'll tell you what works. I lost 10 kg doing this, only last year, or I lost 5 kg doing this, or I'm down 20 or 15 kg. And, you know, a lot of the time it sounds harsh, but I'd say, well, if the diet was so good, why are you back to square one? Or why do you feel like you're back to square one? Because usually that's where the conversation is coming from. I'm not prejudging here. They're telling me this. And then I'm able to say, okay, well then if everything worked so well before, then why are you back here? And they might say, oh, well, I've done it twice before. And, you know, they lost maybe 10 kg the first time and maybe put back on 8 and then lost 5 the next time and put back on 4, So really over the space of a long period of time, they're down 3 kg overall. And this could be over anything from 18 months to 2 years. It is a really long time span people usually talk about, because what happens is they go into these kind of diets that they heard, and we've all heard them. There's no need to go into any specific diets. Every diet is just there to create a deficit, but a lot of the models aren't sustainable. So a lot of them are kind of you're seeing results quickly. They're very strong. After 6 weeks, you can tell a huge difference to your body. Like, it's changed dramatically. And the reason is because it's probably a dramatic diet. So if there's that much of a dramatic change, the diet's probably pretty traumatic. Now, look, for some people, there's lots of weight to lose, and it's going to fall quickly, kind of, once you start to get a hold of the diet anyway. But for others, they tend to go into these huge aggressive diets and not think long term. So if you're going into a diet, you need to think, there's a lot of questions, there's a range of questions, but something I'll always ask is, is this something that you can change from a diet? Fair enough if we have to get you to a certain point, or because of health benefits or health markers we got to lose weight. But is this diet something that you can sustain and change into a lifestyle, or is it something that we can adapt into a new diet once this diet is done? So, for example, your regular eating is there's plenty of meat, there's plenty of carbs, there's plenty of fishes, there's loads of veg, there's it's a pretty varied meal, and then all of a sudden you go into this really restricted diet where you cut out meat or you cut out carbs or you cut out something, and then all of a sudden you get to from point A to point B, a happy weight goal, but you've got no exit strategy. And an exit strategy is so important if you are going to do an aggressive diet like that. Now, I wouldn't be a fan of those aggressive diets, be it through elimination of food, be it through elimination of maybe some time restricted eatings or things like that. I would be more along the lines of seeing what fits your lifestyle, what small changes can we make, and what can we sustain over time. So instead of going from A to B, look at it from A to D, and you want to bridge the gap with B and C. So that could be as simple as you're looking at breakfast, you're looking at lunch, and that's all you're focusing on for 2 months. I'm going to nail those, or even a month, and I'm going to nail those. Then that's part B. So you've gone from A to B. Now, to get you from B to D, you have to look at C, and C could be, okay, my snacks and my dinners, let's start to nail that now and change those, whether it's substitution, portion control, restricting maybe some calories. So for example, instead of having 400 grams of spuds, you're going to have 300 grams or 200 grams. Instead of going straight into the cookie jar after dinner, you go for a walk, and then you come back and you think about what you want to have, or you get a high protein snack in later on, an hour or two after dinner, and kind of breaking habits. So when you're looking at a diet, the really important thing is, can you sustain it, or can you adapt it into your ideal diet when you're done? Because a lot of the time there's people giving pretty shitty advice. I mean, I've overheard some crazy stuff, from drinking nothing but water and lemon until the evening, and then having some meat, and then repeating that cycle for 3 weeks. And I overheard this one years ago. It was actually when I was abroad, and he swore it was the best thing he ever did. And, you know, he was down 10 kg, and putting it fairly lightly, he was quite an obese man. So, I mean, to be given advice like that so confidently to someone else who was soaking it up at the time, obviously I didn't feel it was my place to say anything, but sometimes I wish I did. And there's a lot of conversations like that where people are given this terrible advice with absolutely no sustainability or no backing to it. And even if you were to ask them most of the time, well, what happened after that? It's the same answer. Oh, well, you know, I put the weight back on, but that's because I wasn't doing it. But if you dig deeper, the real reason you weren't doing it is because it's no way sustainable. It's impossible to keep that up. So how would you? So when I'm going through a diet model with people, or we're making changes, and again, everyone's different. I mean, some people, we don't count calories. Some we just do portion control. Some we just, we might cut out a meal or cut out a snack. Some we might just substitute the snacks or substitute the meals. So, you know, like easy substitutes from, if you have rashers and eggs every day, 5 eggs every day and 2 rashers, you change it to 3 turkey rashers and 3 eggs and 2 egg whites, or 2 eggs and 2 egg whites. You know, there's always loads of changes. But anyway, we look through the substitutes, and we look to lose weight gradually over time. So obviously, again, if you have loads and loads of weight, it's going to be normal to see a big jump once you make these changes. But for a lot of people, you want to make sustainable changes, because the more you can sustain that weight loss and it drops over time consistently, there's a better chance of you keeping that off. Whereas if you're up here and you have these drops, you're going to be seeing it going up and down the whole time. Whereas even for your head, if you can just see that gradual drop over time, obviously there'll be jumps here and there, but over time there's going to be gradual drops. That's going to be what gives you the confidence in the diet. You can sustain it. You're seeing results all the time, rather than huge drops, big jumps, huge drops, big jumps, and jumping all over the place and kind of kicking yourself and feeling guilty. You're going to see this constant decline, and that's why slow and steady wins the race with a lot of these things. And looking at your lifestyle habits, your sustainable changes, and working from there. So yeah, the main topic of this is, if your diet worked, why is all the weight back on?